Right now, anybody who's willing to come along and build a retirement home, they're going to find new business.
So their research shows that most gains in the user experience are shrinking. We had the discovery of like the hamburger menu or like
It's the Viral Ideas Podcast with Dash and Runda.
Hello, everyone on the internet, World Wide Web. Today we got Mark Nguyen today to talk about everything user research. And then he's going to give us some user research insights that he's found recently. And we're going to bounce off the ideas from there. A little bit of a change in scheduling on the format of how we are approaching this episode, but this one is going to be a great one. So without further ado, I'll let Mark introduce himself.
Cool. Thanks, Runda. Yeah, so as Runda mentioned, my name is Mark. I run a consumer research practice. We work mostly with startups in the US and yeah, looking forward to this. So what I got together for today was a bunch of different, they're kind of trends, like social trends and cultural trends. And then, yeah, hoping we can get some cool ideas coming out of them.
All right, let's get some insights going.
Okay, so insight number one. This one's less of an insight, it's more of a general trend. But the aging population eclipses the younger population in most developed countries. We're expected to have our population 65 plus double from 2020 to 2050. And it's not really distributed. So in the US, we have an aging population that's aging slower than most countries, whereas in Europe and Asia, we have a lot of old people getting old really quickly. And there's also going to be a lot of, as a side note, a lot of young people in Africa. So yeah, curious, what do you think would come out of this demographic trend?
So I think with the aging population these days, the most immediate low-hanging fruit is just in today's environment, society is like so heavily marketed and branded towards young people that like third place where there's a cultural trend for city folks start consistently looking for new hobbies and new third places or spaces generally. But then with this neglected kind of demographic in society, we don't really think about seniors like environments where seniors can like thrive more. So to me, this idea of third places for seniors could be really interesting. And then I would probably start small in creating something like experiences or workshops are just like specifically designed and catered to the accessibility of let's say 60 plus seniors, and then move from the experiences over to like physical things or spaces. Maybe as I'm not sure if it's like playground would be the right thing, but like essentially like that type of third space to hang out in. It could be like interesting, even as just like simple as pickleball or badminton courts are just like specifically targeted for senior folks.
Yeah. It's weird. That was like you said, that was like a senior or an older person trend first, right? And then like a lot of young people start picking up. Yeah. So that's like a trend we picked up from them.
Yeah, it's like a perfect balance of in between table tennis and real tennis, but like it's still physical enough so that you're keeping yourself healthy and active. That's why I think like pickleball became such a big trend. And then people can take as hardcore as they wanted to, or just like as casual as they want to. But in general, I would look for categories of activities or physical things or experiences. Potentially, it could be hangouts, like a book club that are just like catered to senior folks, and then create like an ecosystem around it. And then you could go as far as creating a database, become the authority of creating this type of third place for seniors that are like accredited. And then you can create your own stamp of approval for accrediting other venues to be seniors friendly, to be like that type of third places for senior friendly, almost like a best place to work or like B Corp type of situation.
This is a really interesting rundown. Okay, there's a visual that I've got to bring up here. So have you guys ever heard of these dementia villages or sometimes Alzheimer's villages? So basically, a lot of these have sort of popped up as a new wave of elder care. It's no different from like a typical retirement home, but they just lay it out in a way that it feels like you're in an actual town, and they have different activities. It's like, oh, you're going to the barber shop. You walk in and, it's just like the same experience as, in your regular life. And, that's something that's been shown to be helping older people get over the troubles that come along with these cognitive long-term health defects. So those are pretty cool. And, like right now it's a very niche thing. There's probably only a handful of these things around the world. But as you're saying, Mark, what was it? The in developed nations, the age of people who are age 65 plus, that population is going to double in the near future. So there's just going to be probably a very significant amount of new infrastructure that will need to be built for retirement homes. Because already, lots of people struggle, at least in Canada, just to find a suitable place to use as a retirement home. And sometimes they come with years long waiting lists. So it seems like right now, anybody who's willing to come along and build a retirement home, they're going to find new business. So I think that going into the development of these retirement homes with this mindset that, you're talking about, Runda, of like, hey, older people need third places and they need spots to hang out. And also, maybe if these retirement homes were just more inviting and they were just more of an enjoyable experience, then that may prompt their own families to just want to visit them more. It's just good for everybody. It's certainly more expensive, but this is not really a cost sensitive market. These homes, like the one that I just showed pictures of, I'm sure they're very high on the general cost of things. But people are willing to do that because, like, man, have you seen how bad most most of these regular homes are? Like, it's brutal. So I think definitely, like, Runda, what you're saying about just building things with the purpose of like, hey, old people need a nice place to hang out as well, and they need places to be social that might be, more unconventional. I mean, hey, like right now, I'm sure there are these options of third places to hang out, but maybe it's not so attractive for younger people. So if these third places were also inviting to young people just as much as they were inviting to old people, then that will serve to grow the traction in both of those communities, especially with the older ones who, maybe they're struggling with loneliness and their family doesn't visit them that much.
I really like the conceptualization you had there of like, what if it wasn't just a space that was well designed for older folks? It was just a designed space in general that everyone wants to go to, you know? So yeah, it could be also cool to see what, like, how that could push the frontiers of urban design in general. Like, if we could see the crazy, like the wildest, like innovations from that world, in the same way we saw it from like smart cities, uh, or like the tech world in the past 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, this is true. Doing it from a completely holistic point of view rather than these tech companies where, like, when Google tried to build a new neighborhood in Toronto and it totally failed because, like, what was their goal even with that? They just wanted to make it high tech and track everything and, all of this, but, like, why? For what? Who is this benefiting? Who is this for? Like, why? What is the point of any of this other than for it to just be cool new tech? Why not go for people with a purpose and, give them something that is just meant to be holistic?
Agreed.
Okay. Well, I have a small kind of big idea to jump off with. So, population of older people is going up. Everyone's talking about the great wealth transfer. So An industry that is definitely disproportionately affected by this would be agriculture. So in Canada, United States, you've got a lot of farmers who, they own a farm and that is their land and that is that's where they get their income from. And as they get too old, they need to have someone else running the farm for them. And I'm sure a lot of these people are really hoping that one of their kids is going to be interested in stepping up and running the family farm. We live in a world where, especially kind of thanks to the internet, a lot of the time these people's kids, they don't wanna do that. They wanna leave that small farm and they wanna go into, a bigger city and, do something else because that like, they wanna get out of it. On the other side of things, you've got a lot of people who grew up in cities and they wanna get out of that, and their dream is like, "Oh, I just wanna own a farm one day." So, where this leaves the world now is just all these farmers that their kids are their kids are moving away, they just end up having to sell their farms to some, like, private equity group that is buying up farms so that they can just do it in the corporate way. Which, I mean, hey, in itself, like, that's a great opportunity for those businesses, but I don't think that that is the best thing for just the general food security of the world and specifically our country. There should be an alternative here. My idea is that there should be some way to connect those people who are interested in getting out of the urban life and owning a farm, and then also just having a way for farmers to then get connected with them. So the opportunity I think there is what you could kind of call mentorship to own, where
Interesting.
you have these people who maybe they have no experience with agriculture whatsoever. Maybe they haven't even gotten any education in it, and what they really need is a mentor. These farmers usually need people to work for them anyways, so like this is, just having an extra hand there could be beneficial, but basically match people with farms so that they can work on that farm and get to know it really well and work on it for a long period of time, maybe like 5 years or something like that, but with the end goal specifically being to own that farm. And then, this creates a world where farmers can then pass down their farm to another individual without having to go through like some crazy aggressive negotiation with some corporation that is just gonna buy the farm and, just give it a boring future. Yeah, that's my idea. What do you guys think of this?
That's cool, and I guess it also works out for the young folks too who have more time and want to donate their time towards learning how to, I guess, tend to the land and get back to nature and whatnot, right? Instead of pouring in their assets and cash into it. So it also works out for the young folks as well. So I guess it would be like you like a model could be like you put in a certain number of hours and then that's converted to equity and then you earn X percentage or you own X percentage in that land, just like in a mortgage, right? So you do like you said, like 5 years, and then you own maybe like 30% of this farmland, and then the rest you can either continue to pay through labor or you can pay off through cash or whatever, however you want to do that. Not only on like that model, the business and revenue model end, it could work, but also generally speaking, it's like both sides. I see the world where both sides want that really, right? Both the people like to who do want to give the land to big farm and younger folks that want to, get their fingers dirty and whatnot.
Yeah, there's like the two parties has equal incentive to get together because individual young people understands how terrible the commercialization of the food system is. And there's like a specific demographic of people that actually do want to learn on the rural lifestyle. I think that's an overall growing trend too within that category. Farmers themselves, they like if even if it's just like for they're selling for less, they would probably rather sell the farm to an interested individual, just like any small business owner that wants to keep the legacy of the farm or the business going, rather than just like give it to a private equity and then have the accountants deal with it.
Yeah, totally. I think, there's a lot of opportunities with this great wealth transfer topic. And, you could probably apply this exact idea to a number of other industries where you just see a lot of typically older owners that are struggling to find just someone to be the successor for their business. Because I mean, like they want it to be their kids, but then it's not their kids. And then, hey, like as we were saying before, there's not really that many ways for older people to just have third places to hang out where they might randomly meet a young person, because that doesn't exist. Like, yeah, there should be something. Maybe it's a website or just like an actual matching service that that is like a paid one-time thing. There's a lot of different ways that you could execute this. On a very microscopic level where it's literally just you and you're just like connecting those two parties, or you could do it on like a pretty systematic level as well. But yeah, this is a very open-ended idea where you would probably see potential in any industry that is just currently being affected by the great wealth transfer because they have no one to pass it down to.
I like how you tied it back into third places, because that's, yeah, like a farmland could be like third place too, right?
Yeah, in a sense, it definitely could be. But yeah, like of course, like hey, I grew up in a very rural environment, and it's definitely not easy to just like make friends when the population density is probably 1/100th of what we have here in the city. So it's not as easy to just like find those people and make those connections because a lot of it really is just luck based.
Now let's move on to the next insight and trend.
Cool. Okay, so this next one's pretty cool. It's about dads. So dads have more time with children than ever before. College-educated fathers spend 10 hours a week on childcare, a 2-hour increase since 2003. So 2 more hours per day on per week on childcare. So yeah, generally, what do we think about that? Like more dads having more time with their kids. Like what could come out of that?
Well, I would say with this whole theme, I don't have a direct idea, but there's just something that I've noticed, particularly where, like, yes, it's true. Dads who have more time with their kids than usual right now, and that trend is probably only going to continue. So I know a dad that basically he started a YouTube channel for his daughter because he just felt like all of the stuff that she was seeing on YouTube was just like garbage. And he had a specific niche thing that he wanted her to be learning about because they were Spanish speaking. He wanted Spanish speaking content for his daughter to be watching, but still something that is digestible and educational because there's a lot of kids YouTube channels, but most of them really fail at the educational aspect of it. So he started up this channel by hiring a creator to basically create the content for him, and then also an editor. He most likely did that through an online hiring platform where, we're looking at probably like $5 to $10 per hour, from a South American country. And the channel has been doing consistent uploads for I think about like 11 months now, and it's gone from 0 to about 400,000 subscribers. So the income associated with that is, I mean, like just from the AdSense alone, like you'd be doing $5,000 plus a month off of this, especially with it being in the kids niche. So that's allowed him to scale things up, and that's what he's doing. So what I'm thinking is that this is an idea for somebody who is a dad and has time on their hands because they would be uniquely positioned to have the vision for what type of content it should be. If this dad creates this YouTube channel and they sort of figure out a formula for it and they know what they're doing, they should start more. And I would say like if you want to take it far and you want to go big with it, if you had a network of say 5 to 10 of these kids focused YouTube channels that are each sort of doing their own niche series that is non-competing with the other one, each targeting different demographics, languages, all of that, then that's a media network that you've essentially created that probably has reach that would be rivaling that of TVO Kids or PBS Kids, all of these publicly funded TV channels that are focused for, children's content. If one person is able to, go from 0 to 400,000 subscribers in less than a year, then, this is at scale, this is something that could absolutely fund the creation of new TV shows that are rivaling the production value of the ones that these networks are using. Because just from a cost perspective, like you're actually getting into that budget territory where you could then go and make your own Paw Patrol and go pretty big with it. So yeah, that my idea is basically start a dad's media network. But specifically, I would recommend this idea for dads because that's the demographic that have the time and they know what their kid wants. They understand that and they know other dads. So yeah, I think it's a big opportunity.
So question, like, what kind of customization was that dad doing for his kid again? Like, was it just a language translation, or was it like the content itself was like all the story that he wanted?
The creator was basically it's like a talking head videos to camera with visual cues where it's just simply a certain topic like, hey, learning your ABCs, for example. And the video is like, oh, how to like learn your ABCs. They're doing it all in Spanish for their thing. That's how they're doing it. And they just do different educational videos on just various different topics, and then they put those out. And yeah, it's actually very possible that again, like, if you're just thinking about, okay, this sounds like a lot of work, not necessarily. Like, it's not like there's really a bunch of new lessons that need to be ideated to teach to kids. You really could just be taking other YouTube videos and then getting the script from them and you could use ChatGPT or Claude to just take that script and then repurpose it for a different audience where, maybe it's a language thing, or maybe it's actually even like a style of communication where maybe you're taking topics that are typically only taught to kids at a certain age and then repurposing the wording and the structure of it in a way that maybe a younger child could understand, or vice versa. So yeah, like a lot of this is really just rooted in repurposing information and videos that are probably already out there. But the opportunity is in delivering this in a way that's better than the other people. Because just right now, the state of YouTube kids content is just horrific. The bar is like way down here. So anytime somebody comes along and they just have just the slightest little bit of thoughtfulness put into it, of like, hey, I'm not here to churn views off of kids and make money off of them. Just I'm actually here to teach kids and I just want to be valuable. A lot of people are going to respect that. Parents are going to walk into the room, they'll see their kid watching it and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, this looks better than Paw Patrol." The bar is so low. That's why I feel like there's just huge opportunity for this.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that once you have like a decent bit of like quality content that are educational and kids compliant, because like there are certain content laws that are supposed to be kids compliant for broadcast media or any form of like published media, depending on the jurisdiction you're in. But like in Canada, we do have like a regulating body to at least like be the authority in this category. something I see is that once everything is just like taken care of, and then there's like quality content or educational to these kids, is that teachers will share it. You guys remember going to middle school or high school and then just having teachers show either these like content or movies sometimes?
Yeah, that was fun. When the teacher rolls in the TV, you know it's gonna be a good class.
Yeah, I think like
Yeah.
I can't think of a YouTube personality that's a Bill Nye the Science Guy. There should just be
Mhm.
like those any type of like a category of sciences or educational content. I mean, like Khan Academy. I've had teachers in math class or like physics class to literally show Khan Academy. So like there's a real need of like these quality content that are like kids friendly and then educational, but no one in the YouTube kids section are really capitalizing on that.
Yeah, well, those who are massively profiting off of it because it's just it's a space that people just don't really think about that much. If you take the time to understand that, then, you have a hugely unfair advantage to do well with content like that.
In this same trend. So my whole thought process is like going into a similar media route to just like any kind of emerging trend, but then capitalizing off of this like whole thought on what is the next step of this trend being like a growing thing in culture. So when I forward engineer this to the future of it, if dads are going to have more time with children, that means there's going to be more stay-at-home dads and then more breadwinner moms. So the cultural dynamic might actually shift from like trophy wives over to trophy dads. And then if this is like a emerging category of this like trophy dad culture, I would probably start creating some sort of community to just like essentially copy the same playbook on how girl boss became a thing. If girl boss is like, I would just like create the kind of like complementary category to girl boss. And then, so if there's the community of girl boss, there's going to be a community of trophy dads. And then I would essentially just like do all the homemaker dad content on like how to be the ideal trophy dad. Here's like how to compliment your breadwinner wife to the maximum. And then just like first create this like community and then content. It will probably evolve into like in-person workshops and everything like that. And then have all these like trophy dad influencers emerge from the community. And then you could probably have like conferences similar to like how a girl boss, there's probably a conference relating to being a girl boss. There's going to be a conference about all the ideal trophy dads. And then for all their mastermind content to be like spoken in a PowerPoint on like, hey, make sure you know to just like fix anything in a home.
Yeah.
And just like woodwork class for trophy dads on just like making practical furniture
True.
to impress your breadwinner wife. Or like beginner baking skills as a trophy dad, and then all the way to advanced baking skills. It could be entire content empire or community empire that has this ecosystem emerging around it. So yeah, low boss, but trophy dads.
Okay, you know how I would execute? You know how I would execute this? I think I would actually use maybe a school or a similar platform for this. And the goal would to be like, all right, create like a whole thing for people to learn from and sort of buy in for a community plus course. And I think that this idea becomes really feasible if you sort of go with that pitch that you just made there, Runda, but go to somebody who's already got influence in this space. Like there's somebody I've been watching a lot lately. He's called I think it's called POV_husband. And this guy just makes videos of him making like really over the top dinners for his wife. So maybe I'd go to him, or maybe just anybody else who's like kind of in this category, and just say to them like, hey, this is the, this is the community that like I'm trying to build up. And particularly like the it's about like the trophy husband, and we want to build up that term and build a rant, sort of hijack this term that is already sort of used in culture, but sort of make it into our thing and build a community surrounding it. And to be honest, I was a little skeptical at first, but then I think like I actually totally get this on why people would fully be willing to pay for something like this, and it would be really valuable, is like, yeah, if they are falling into this category of guys that they are the ones who stay at home and they have a breadwinner wife. Well, I mean, I'm sure all of these guys are interested in holding down their breadwinner wife, and they're actually probably thinking like, hey, like I actually do want to make sure that I'm bringing everything that I can to the table here, because like my wife is doing so much, like, at work every day. And, that's just not good for a relationship when people feel like there's an imbalance. So I think just like that's something that could like probably save marriages. Cause like as guys, no one ever told us how to, be the best stay-at-home husband growing up. That's just like not something that is like really taught to us on a cultural level. So I think just sort of fostering a push in that direction would actually probably, not only be a good opportunity to like, hey, go viral and get rich, but you would also be really making a cultural difference in the world.
There was already this viral story out there. It was like a guy either in Japan or China where he's basically a professional boyfriend. He basically does all the stay-at-home boyfriend husband things, but then like as a boyfriend, and then he just bounces relationships to relationships as like that boyfriend that will just cook for you whenever you're about to go to work for breakfast, and then he'll pack your lunch, and then he'll also like make dinner for you. It's actually all the kind of like traditional wifely duties, but like he's doing that as a boyfriend.
How many
And
clients does this guy have?
I think last time I saw this video, it was 7 girlfriends in the past. And then apparently this guy gets like exes send him letters to like come back as a boyfriend. And then he's just like, no, I have to, you know,
Tend to my other 6.
Yeah, gotta go to work, you know.
gotta go to work in the kitchen. There's probably going to be like an emerging kind of like middle point, like tolerable point for the mainstream culture to like accept the whole, yeah, there's going to be more female breadwinners in a family dynamic. At trophy dads is going to be a whole cultural demographic out
Yeah.
there.
It already exists, but like plenty, but it's gonna take off way more. I mean, look at Mark. I bet you could literally find data to like back this up, but I'm pretty sure like well more than 50% of like just for the gender breakdown for when you look at like medical school, like women are dominating these educational paths right now for these like typically like kind of high paying jobs that are like enough to be like what we'll call like a breadwinner for a family. These are female dominated, so all of those people are going to graduate and get jobs someday. And this is just something like if you look further down in the pipeline for this trend, like there's just really only more fuel being added to the fire right now.
All right. Next round of insights.
This one is a bit more, it's a bit more conceptual, right? So it has to do a lot with where media is going to be or living or consumed on the internet. One theory is a splitter net theory, which is a theory that the internet's getting more fragmented because of different political actors. We have a Facebook here, a version of Facebook here, a version of Facebook there. Maybe it'll get even more fragmented along the road. And then the other theory also related to how media might be consumed or moving around the internet in the future is the dead internet theory, which is, as you might know, it's just the idea that in the future, most of the internet or content would be generated content, so synthetic data or dead. I'm not sure if that's really dead per se, but yeah, there's two theories about how media on the internet's going to be. So however we want to break it up and approach it. I think one note I had here in terms of the splitter net theory that I'd wanted to share is that because of the fragmentation, there's some services that will offer consumers the ability to counter these regulations. So, for example, like VPNs, right? If I'm in a certain country and there's increasing regulations, then VPNs will let me access content anywhere. Rise of those services, um, or other services that are like anti-polarization, like ground news that can reveal to you like where you are in this fragmented internet. It helps you kind of like locate. Okay, so this internet that I'm seeing is actually this version of the internet that's like maybe very left leaning or very right leaning, etc., etc. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that in this space, the idea of just aggregating data in a way that just gives them confidence in the accuracy of what they're getting. It's like that's a huge opportunity because think about the margins on a business that is just gathering free information and then selling it to people. Like you you're basically just creating value from essentially nothing. But it is really valuable because Google is just useless now. I can't get any valuable information from it, I think 80% of the time. Like now I just pretty much use Perplexity or ChatGPT as just like my search engine for finding information. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, like I'm going to go straight to the point and I'm just going to Google this one. And it really does just like let you down every time. But still, on the other hand, Perplexity, ChatGPT, they're not really perfect. They're a little too generalized tools. They're known to hallucinate all the time, and you should still take that with a grain of salt as well. The way that it started when the internet was fresh, like when we had the early days of like YouTube and Google and all of that, it was all humans that were putting stuff out there, and that was just them sharing, their information. And now we're just looking at like every day, there's probably more data flowing through the internet every single day than there would have been in like an entire like year or something in the early days. So the idea of like, oh, there should be a search engine that probably worked when the internet was like 1,000th of the size that it is today. And now it's almost like there's, the internet is less of like a fixed place where, I feel like growing up, people would always say to me like, hey, be careful what you post online because that's there forever. Well, like that's not like even really necessarily true because apparently like 75% of the web pages that existed before 2005, like they just don't even really exist anymore. And it's almost like the internet is more of just like a very destructured, decentralized broadcast that's not really much different from TV, where it's not like you're putting something on the internet and it's there to exist forever. But now we're in this age of algorithms where it's just a constant flow, and then after that goes, then it's past.
Right.
It's not. I feel like there's just a shift.
Really interesting perspective on like content. So it's like not like everything we see is new. It's a stream rather than, as you said, like in the case of like all of the old articles are gone and whatnot. It's not as like search and index as it was before. It's kind of just what's in your feed, how your algorithm is built determines what this stream is. There's something there.
Yeah.
This is still kind of very loose and conceptual, but I think there's something there.
Yeah, very, very loose reaction, but I would say that that really like the general opportunity with just like what you're talking about with like the splitter net and also the dead internet theory is that like everybody has their own individualized experience on the internet, and that is going to continue to get more and more customized. And, while this isn't really a direct business idea or viral idea, it's just more so like an obvious opportunity that already exists and will only accelerate more. Um, these these platforms that hold just template apps and just template software based businesses, because yeah, like they're like, for example, like Uber for Brazil, Uber for Uganda. I mean, this has already been done. So now the question is like, okay, what other things are there out there that already exist in, maybe the country that you live in, but if you go to a different country, it's not
Mm,
there. So
it's not there.
there's just going to be more repurposing and remaking of things that already exist.
So like you can copy ideas across geographies, but it's completely legal now because the country's blocking out the the US version or the whatever version, right? We can copy like Chinese technology because they can't compete here, and they can copy our technology because we can't compete there. And it's just basically the same technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that might lead us to our last kind of insight here, the point on personalization of the internet. So the insight here is that research by the Nielsen Norman Group, which is like a leading UX research firm responsible for a lot of web products that you see today, like Apple products, Facebook products. A lot of their designers have gone on to engineer a lot of these software and hardware products in the past 10, 20 years. And so their research shows that most gains in the user experience are shrinking. So whereas in the 2000s, we had the discovery of like the hamburger menu or like different information architecture as a way to click through certain things to get to where you need on a web page. That was all new. We had to discover like how to arrange things on the screen so that people could browse, people could search, etc. All of those gains are now shrinking, meaning like there's not much new innovation there. And with Gen AI, it's kind of interesting because a lot of the input and the output, it's not fixed and deterministic anymore. It's more like it's more different. So what you put in every single time into ChatGPT, what might be different and what you get out might be different. There's more of a variation per se. And the only innovation there so far with Gen AI is just chatbots, right? So we only have chat boxes and chat bots as well. So there's not much user experience innovation. There's a lot of like the Gen AI tech itself is new, like ChatGPT and Perplexity, etc. is new, but like the way that we interact with it is not as there's no ground being broken there. So yeah, it's curious. I heard an ex Apple designer talk about how we might see interfaces get a bit more, I think it was like a bit more flowy. So for example, because what's underneath Gen AI is not deterministic. It's not like, oh, I'm searching up pizza near me and then there's 5 results. There's always going to be 5 results for pizza near me. If I search up something in ChatGPT, I can get a different result every single time. So there's more kind of like different possible versions, right? He said that we might see that the UX or UI, it might be less fixed. So now we see a lot of boxes, see a lot of containment, we see a lot of like specific buttons that are there consistently all the time. But that interface might change. It might get into a space where it's more organic, more organic. You already see kind of the organic like colors and palettes already coming into web products, right? Like gradients, a lot of gradients already starting to come in. But we might start to see even more like organic UI, so interfaces. So maybe like scroll buttons that maybe like I don't know, like a volume button that that automatically adapts depending on what your environmental sound is, or it changes depending on something else, but it's just much more organic is what I'm saying. So that was a lot, but yeah, I'm curious what you think, like maybe in the world of media, how you see the experience of technology changing and becoming less deterministic and black and white and input and output and structured in the same way that the internet was like 20 years ago or 30 years ago until now.
I think that you're right. There's going to be a big push for just like, customization and all of that. And I like what you're saying about how it's not deterministic. Like I'm not even sure how to describe this, but you're right. Everything is just starting to become like unstructured and more like it's just like a flow, like the wind almost. It's becoming more organic um from, these like ChatGPT, it's taking a base layer of information and then it structures it in the way that it thinks is best for you and what it knows about you. And it's also kind of randomized to that specific moment in time where like you can ask it a question. You could ask ChatGPT probably the same question two times over, but that second time that you ask it that question, you may not even get the same exact answer as you got before. So this actually reminds me of something I was thinking about like a week or two ago, which was like, you guys ever use like dark mode on your computer or
Yeah.
also like
Apps. Yeah.
there's the new iOS update. So like I've been doing this like where they give you the option to kind of like customize the color of your apps. So they're giving you kind of like a more unified look on your home screen. I think this is the future. So this is maybe not necessarily an idea that I'm saying someone should go execute on because this may cost hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars to like actually create something that can reliably do this.
Let's do this.
But I still think it's possible because of these technologies that have like really come into play in the last couple of years. So basically, like there's a Chrome extension for a universal dark mode. So when you go onto any website, it automatically makes it into a dark, easy on your eyes palette for reading at night. So that's like a really primitive version of what I'm suggesting, which is like so take that same idea of like you could have a toggle on the internet for making it dark so just think of any UI from a certain company that you really enjoy.
Mhm.
For me, I always really liked Google's material design around like the like 2015 era. I'm a really big fan of just the way that Notion looks. Like I really like how it's really simple. So I'll use that as an example. So basically imagine a tool that allows you to go onto the internet with that unified UI experience everywhere you go. Like you hop onto Google, but Google doesn't look like Google right now. Google looks like the Notion aesthetic or the example that Runda's pulled up here, the old material design look. Like let's say you really like that. So you go on Google and it looks like that. But then you hop onto Facebook, and Facebook is Facebook, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like this aesthetic that you have requested. So maybe it would actually,
Hmm.
let's say like with the Facebook example, it would probably start to look like Google Plus, and sort of just changing that and using AI to provide a unified UI UX experience across the entirety of the internet. Basically, one in the name of like, okay, some people just have preferences, but this would also be huge for people who have like learning disabilities or maybe they're colorblind or, just any type of impairment that makes navigating the internet difficult. This is something that would be like huge for people who can't do that. I like if you can have like there's so many like you've got like on and there's a lot of these prompt based UI generators that can do this. So if there's a way to do it at scale in a cost-effective way so that whenever someone just goes on the internet, they just instantly have this, this visual experience, and man, like that would be huge. I would use that. I would definitely pay like probably, I don't know, $20 a month or something for my own internet experience that just makes it easier for me to digest information.
It's like design as a subscription service. It's like your own UI or UX, whatever you like, as a service for you across all these apps. And like you said, it's also good for accessibility too. So that's another play. I think I've seen some of, I guess, like the more primitive version, as you mentioned, is the dark mode apps, right? Like the website that just turn like dark mode, or this whatever, or like the apps that will make like for accessibility. I think there's apps that make increase font size or change font size as well. But you're saying that, but for you, for like the visual, for the aesthetic side, and like the UI itself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah. It's kind of like skins for the internet, like internet skins.
Yeah,
Yes.
skins for
Yes.
the internet.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, exactly that.
yeah, I think like this will essentially, because there's usually two camps of UX design. One is UI UX designs that are meant to be like unnoticed, and then there's the other aspect of UX UI design where the camp is more about like being personalized and then having a distinct point of view. I think like with this skins portion, you can actually separate the two camps that you really need to. And then the people who are just like designing for the sake of kind of having a smooth experience and then having the designs to be unnoticed, where it's just like more structured and it's more about the way that you lay out your content on that camp. And now like we can create a clear distinction on like when people are designing these websites. Essentially in like these digital design aspect, whenever you're designing a website or app, you're typically trying to make a set style sheet. This is just like an example of what a style sheet look like. And then essentially you're kind of putting this information into the design files of what you would use to design all the elements of a website or the components of the website or your app product. I think like now skins are essentially just like personalized style sheets that you could potentially just like buy from the consumer side. And then if there's consumers or like users are just actually dedicating this behavior of purchasing like a all-encompassing internet skins for all the different websites that they're visiting, I think it's not that much of a technical feat to actually have like a browser essentially to basically be able to incorporate all these different UI skins. Like you can easily you should be able to easily turn Google into like an I don't know, a Cartoon Network aesthetic or something like that, or like you can SpongeBobify like YouTube probably. And for all the UX experiences now, I think like this will actually require all the companies that are building these products or digital products to focus more on just the layout and the content of whatever they're building. Essentially just like figure out the framework structure, and then they don't really need to start from the design side, because like whoever that's making the skins will just kind of influence your all the personalized designs. If like a person that's more preferred to interact with like a neomorphic kind of style, they'll purchase the skin for it instead of like really worrying about your product.
Yeah. That's yeah, I think taking the web browser approach where maybe it's its own custom browser, but sort of maybe building it on top of Chrome, or doing something like that would probably be the like easier way of doing that. that's like a really interesting way to actually execute on that. And it kind of makes me think of the analogy of someone sends an email. Someone sends an email to someone by writing it out in point form, and then they put it into ChatGPT, and then it puts it into paragraph form for them. They email that to someone. That person who received that email then gets this big email that they don't want to digest, so they copy paste it into ChatGPT, and then they put it into point form for for themselves. So really, at the end of the day, like, it could have just always been a point form thing, and that could also be applied to websites where maybe these websites, they don't need to be all so fancy. Like, they don't need to look a certain way. And if you can take away from that, a lot of these websites would really just be like, all right, header information, text within, imagery. That's it. Where is it on the screen? What's the font? What size is it? Things like that. Just don't even think about those questions. Like, just focus on the content.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a nice kind of like point of view to end on. We are literally changing the internet with these big ideas. Any closing thoughts? And where can we find your stuff, Mark?
Yeah, you can visit our website, nguyendigital.co. Yeah, that's where you can reach us if anyone wants to connect over research, any startups want to work with us. That's the easiest way to reach us.
Okay. Yeah. And if anybody wants to talk about any of these ideas, particularly that skin one, every idea that I came up with today was something that, like, I just want to exist for me. So, like, please message me. Tell me if you're getting any of these going.
Josh is the expert consultant for any of these ideas. And oh yeah, by the way, we're starting a in-person workshop series. So it's going to be monthly workshop content related to idea generation, whether it's for content or creating marketing funnels or validating a startup idea. We'll literally get into the in-depth details on how we do that instead of listening to this podcast for idea inspiration. But yeah.
Yeah. Learn. We'll not give you ideas. We'll give you the shovel to dig your own ideas up.
Exactly. We're teaching you how to fish for ideas that may or may not be a very big trout, or it might just be a boot.
Well, you have
Well,
the rod though. People will have the rod.
Well, if anybody is interested in that, definitely follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram. That's where we will be making these things known, so
We
that
have
you can
an
come out to
open interest form that you can fill out in probably somewhere on the show notes. Let us know if you're into it.
Okay. Well, thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. Mark, thank you for coming on. It was awesome to brainstorm here with you. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.